Hello everyone, my name is Denise and today I'll be talking on the topic of fantasy. Why is fantasy important to us? Okay, so firstly, when I think of a good fantasy story, I think of stories like Lord of the Rings or even the Matrix series, both of which I really love. Okay, so a good fantasy is almost always an archetypal story. So it usually draws out something that is very familiar and very deep within us. It draws it out and it usually resonates with us, something that we don't understand why, but it just completely makes sense to us and tells us something that we already know deep within us, except we don't know that we know it. Okay, so that's a very Jungian kind of thinking. So okay, the good side about fantasy helps us to better explore the facades of the good and bad archetypes, the different types of heroes, the different types of villains, and even different types of female archetypes as well. So that's pretty awesome. Teaches us how to because in life, right, a lot of our actions are driven towards us striving towards an ideal. So good archetypal stories help us define what is that moral ideal. That's awesome. And also defines what is bad, what is considered villainous or unfavorable, undesirable, so that we can learn how to control that, the seed of that darkness that is within all of us. So that's very good. So okay, how do I use fantasy or storytelling in my therapy? So okay, before I tell you how I do it, let's talk about this thing called Gestalt therapy. Gestalt therapy is awesome because it's known to be able to break through impasse, things that you know but you're not supposed to, your consciousness doesn't allow you to know it, either it's too embarrassing or not socially acceptable. So how do you do it? You put the other person on the chair. For example, I'm Denise and I'm going for therapy. So my therapist says, so now pretend, Denise, suppose that now you are no longer Denise Tong, but you are Alison Shi, my mom's name, Alison. So then he will begin to interview me as if I'm Alison and ask me a few questions, and I'll be able to give answers, and very accurate answers. I said, oh, I didn't even know that I know that. Okay, another similar theme. Actually, I did. It's just that somehow there's an impasse there, but you can break through the impasse using this parent interview nestled within Gestalt therapy. That's pretty awesome. Okay, so fantasy has the same effect. For example, I wouldn't say, tell me about your story. No, I said, write me a story. So person will write the story. They will read to me the story, and now read to me first perspective, the different characters within the story. Okay, this is a transactional analysis technique. So first, she takes on the male protagonist, the female protagonist, the villain, and all that. And she explores it in a very safe place from an arm's length, a distance, because now her own story is nestled within this fantasy, and in the fantasy she's very free and unbridled to express everything. So in a way, it makes this fantasy story that she has written even more real than reality. So that's one great way to use storytelling in therapy. Is it narrative therapy? No. Narrative therapy is something else, okay? But before I learned what narrative therapy was, I thought that this is it. But no, this actually is closer linked to things like transactional analysis and things like the Jungian psychology therapy. Yeah. Okay. So next, storytelling can help us to be honest with ourselves. Yes, like I mentioned. In fact, stories are more real than reality. Okay, and but there's a shadow side of fantasy. Okay, let me illustrate this. For example, I have a script that I don't know why, but people keep betraying me, and when I need them the most, they're never there for me. Okay, so that is my script. It is not a good script. It's something that I truly believe. I've got mistrust and abuse, and I believe that in my time of need, no one will help me. So when I'm in a very dark space, maybe I just got to break up, and I send 10 text messages to my friends, and happened that it was maybe Christmas Eve or what, and they were too busy to respond. So immediately I just ripped the payoff, like, see, that's evidence nobody cares about me. Nobody cares about me. And if tomorrow they respond, I will say that, no, you really didn't respond yesterday. There's no excuse for not being there for me. I become angry, I become resentful. I already got my payoff in my fantasy. In my fantasy world, all my friends read 10 friends read the messages that I sent, and they refused. They made a conscious active decision not to respond, and that's why my friends are bad friends, and I'm just doomed to having bad friends in all my life. So that is the payoff that I reaped through my own fantasy. So that is one bad use of fantasy. But it doesn't end there. Fantasy can be very bad also in the terms of I think we all have this. I had this because I got a rich imaginative world. Have you heard of people who cling on to a relationship for longer and longer than they should, just holding on to the fantasy, the last shadow, the fading shadow of a dream? You know, like I think there's a song by Zhang Xueyou. He said like it's called 情书, a love story. It's called love letter 情书. So in one of the phrases, he said that you hold on to this letter that he wrote to you as evidence that he really loves you, and that love wasn't a one-sided love. But I tell you, people who wait for others to love them are typically not very happy. Yeah, I hope I translated it correctly. So it is exactly that, how fantasy can have a shadow side. You hold on to illusory love, small little evidence of love, and you refuse to let go and say, yes, I'm being loved. So you refuse to balance it out with other facts, like if you are loved, why didn't he come to you when you needed his help? If you are really loved, why is he still seeing person A, person B, person C behind your back? You know, if you're really in love, why did he abandon you at that moment? No, I have evidence here that he loves me. You hold on to that small piece of evidence and nurse that fantasy. So that won't be good, because anything that removes you from a solid ground of reality, that's bad. Okay, and holding on to that fantasy also prevents you from exploring other relationships where people could really love you, and it's true love, not a fantasy love. Okay, so now let's look at the flip side of fantasy. People who don't like fantasy, they don't like to dream or think things through, think things deeply. So for these people, they have resistance. There are such people with resistance of thinking things through. They love to stay within the surface. Okay, so their thoughts tend to linger on the superficial level. They don't like to go any deeper, and if it has a risk of going any bit deeper, immediately they will try to distract themselves, watch a funny video on YouTube, go and have a great meal or something like that. So that prevents them from thinking things through. And usually these people tend to have a lot of nightmares because it bubbles up in their dreams, because in their conscious mind they don't want to think things through. That's not so healthy. So there's definitely a place for daydreaming and fantasies, and we should allow ourselves to go into that and to think things through well. Okay, this is the end of today's video. Today is Christmas Eve, so Merry Christmas everyone, and God bless. If you found this video helpful, kindly press subscribe, like and share with your friends. Thank you, and God bless.